Myself, Mr. Mate HT, Department of Botany, RBNB College, Sri Rampur. Today we are going to see that is the T.Y.B.Sc Botany, paper first, BO 331, Cryptogamic Botany, and from this topic number 1, that is the introduction about the cryptogam. So cryptogams are the flowerless, fruitless, seedless plants, and they reproduce with the help of spores, and they are called as the cryptogam. Now these cryptogams are divided into the two main groups, that is the lower cryptogams and higher cryptogams. While the lower cryptogams are divided into algae and fungi, while higher cryptogams are divided into two another groups, that is bryophytes and pteridophytes. Now here, according to the classification, these lower cryptogams, that is algae and fungi, are primitive as compared to the higher cryptogam, that means as compared to the bryophyte and pteridophyte. Here the plant body is a thallus-like, but here the plant body shows the root-like structures, leaf-like structures, and stem-like structures are also there. Now again, in between bryophyte and pteridophyte, bryophytes are called as the non-vascular cryptogams, while these pteridophytes are called as the vascular cryptogams. So we are going to study about the different characters of the pteridophytes. Now the plant body of the pteridophyte is getting divided into root, stem or rhizome, or into the leaf. For example, now the plant body of the pteridophyte is getting divided into root, stem or rhizome and leaf. For example, the Marsilia. Now this is the rhizome. Rhizome, that is nothing but the underground stem, and it is called as the rhizome, and in the soil there are the adventitious roots. While exposed to the air, there is the leaflet. There are the leaves, and leaves have the leaflet, and sporocarp, these are the reproductive structures in which the spores are there. Now another example, that is the fern. Now fern, again, it has a stolon and it has a rhizome, and toward the side, in the soil there are the root, and above the soil there are the compound leaves are there, and they are called as the main axis of this leaflet is called as the rachis, and on the rachis alternately arranged or oppositely arranged there are the leaflets, and on the leaflet there are the sori, and in this sori there are the spores are developed. So these are the spore giving plants which are called as the cryptogams. Now these are the two examples, that is the Marsilia and fern. Now pteridophyte has well developed conducting tissue system in which the xylem and phloem are there. For example, tears of the rachis of a fern. as compared to other cryptogams. That means as compared to the algae, fungi and bryophyta, here in this pteridophyta there is a well developed conducting tissue system which is get differentiated into the xylem and phloem. This is the TS of the Fern rachis, which shows the xylem and phloem. So because of this, these pteridophytes are called as the vascular cryptogams, or these are the first vascular cryptogams. Now the pteridophyte shows the stellar evolution, because in the pteridophyte there are different types of the stills. For example, now in the pteridophyte, these are the two different types of the stills. For example, this is number 1, which is called as the Actino Steel. Here at 4 corners there is the phloem, and this phloem encircles, it covers the xylem which is at the center. Such a type of a vascular bundle or steel is called as the Actino Steel. Now there is another type which is called as the pectosteel. Here there are the fragments of the xylem and they are covered by the phloem. Such a type of steel is called as the plectosteel. Such a type of number of steels are found, or they are get developed in the pteridophyte. So here, as compared in bryophyte, the pteridophyte shows the variation in the steel. Now next point, that is the reproduction. The pteridophyte reproduces by 3 different types of the methods, that is the vegetative, asexual and sexual. Now from this number 1, that is the vegetative. It takes place with the help of resting buds. These are the resting buds. They are developed on the parent plant. They are full with the food material, and when they get separate from the parent plant, then they have capacity to develop into a new plant of the pteridophyte if the conditions are favorable. Second, that is the asexual reproduction. Now this asexual reproduction in pteridophyte takes place with the help of spores. For example, so this is the asexual reproduction which takes place with the help of a spore. For example, on the leaves there are a number of the sori. They are arranged in a specific manner. So these are the sori. This is the TS of the sori, in which there is the covering which is called as the capsule. It has a wall called as the annulus, and inside this there are very large number of the spores. When they become mature, they get released from this sori or from this annulus, and they get germinate into a gametangia. This gametangia gives the two different types of structures, that is antheridia and archegonia. So these spores, they give the another kind of germination, another kind of the generation, which is called as the gametophytic generation. So this is the number one generation which is formed from the spores. Now the third part, that is the sexual reproduction. Third type of the reproduction, that is the sexual reproduction. Now in the sori, there are a number of the spores. They germinate into another type of a generation. That generation is called as the gametophytic generation. In which there are the two different types of the reproductive structures called as the antheridia and archegonia. So these are the two different types of the reproductive structures. They are developed on the gametophytic plant. First, that is the antheridia. In the antheridia, they have a short stalk and it has a capsule, it has a wall which is called as the jacket, and inside this there are a number of the anthrozoids are get developed. Then this is another reproductive structure, that is the archegonia, which is the female reproductive structure. It is getting divided into the two parts. The upper narrow part is called as the neck and lower bulbous circular part is called as the venter. In the venter there is a small ventral canal cell, and at the base there is a very large egg cell, and in the neck there are the neck canal cell, and at the tip there are the cover cell or the lid cell. Now when these anthrozoids get matured, they reaches up to the neck of the archegonia, and it requires the water. So for the process of water, for the process of fertilization, water is very, very essential. If there is no water, then there is no fertilization in bryophyte also and in pteridophyte also. So for in cryptogam, for sexual reproduction, the water is very, very essential. After fertilization, the zygote is get formed. After fertilization, zygote is get formed, and zygote by division and redivision get developed into an embryo. So after the fertilization of these two, zygote is get formed, which is diploid, and this diploid zygote by division and redivision get developed into the embryo, and this embryo get developed into a sporophytic plant. That means these are two structures, that is antheridia and archegonia, they are developed on the gametophytic plant, while the embryo is getting developed into the sporophytic plant. That means there are the two different types of the plants. That means there are the two different types of the generation. One is the gametophytic generation and another is the sporophytic generation, and they continuously alternate with each other, which is called as the alternation of a generation.